Hello everyone, it's our turn to do the presentation. Our team members are Ziyu, Yang, Ying, and Yixuan. Today we will bring the design and culture about Chinese migration community in Hurstville. Our whole presentation is divided into three parts. The first part is introduction, which introduces the basic situation of Hurstville. The second part is secondary research, which focuses on the immigrant community in Hurstville. And the third part is the analysis and design concept we made for the community.
So the first part, we will introduce Hurstville's location, population, and language. Hurstville is located in the southwest part of Sydney. It has a total population of 29,822 people. Hurstville has been described by the media as Sydney's real Chinatown. It has the largest number of Chinese residents among all suburbs in New South Wales. In this area, over half of population reporting Chinese ancestry. Mainland China is the most common country of birth among its residents, accounting for 37% of total population in Hurstville. Australia has no official language. According to a 2060 census, 73% of Australians speak English as the only language at home, and Chinese is the second most spoken language in Australia after English. Here we are surprising finding the common language spoken at home in Hurstville is Chinese. And the second part, we will show our secondary research. Our research will divide it in two parts, which is surface culture and deep culture. Although Australia and China have the distinct food culture, Chinese immigrants bring the Chinese food culture to Australia. According to the local food research website, about one-third of restaurants in Hurstville are Chinese restaurants. Turning to the lifestyle, some Chinese immigrants set up their own activity organization, which is different to a local community, while the younger immigrants were more likely to involve to local community, such as they also go to the gym every day.
For this part, we are going to introduce the deep culture of Chinese immigrant communities in Hurstville. Languages and cultural barriers are the main challenges for students from Chinese immigrant families to integrate themselves into local school. Young children generally are learning two languages at the same time, as they only speak Chinese at home with their parents and use English to communicate at school. They have to switch between different languages from an early age. In addition, Chinese immigrant students have to learn to cross cultural boundaries and trying to form the identification and sense of belongings at school. According to our research, the most significant difference between the two countries' family resulted from the national policies, which lead to the difference in family structures. Chinese families only have one own child until 2016, but in Australia, the government encouraged breeding. Australian families have two or more children. From the figure of family census at Hurstville, we can find that couple family makes up the largest part of the family structure at Hurstville. In terms of medical treatment at Hurstville, communication and cultural difference still remain the major challenges. Due to the different cultural background, Chinese and Australian have different views on therapy methods. To meet the Chinese immigrants' demands, some Chinese medicine shops have set up in Hurstville's Chinatown. For customers, a celebration of Spring Festival was held by the local Chinese community. A cross-cultural friendship was established by the activities held by the Hurstville Croquet Club. Although it will take a long time to integrate these two cultures and habits, some activities and celebrations have been held to bring these two cultures together.
The third part of the community analysis and the individual desired outcome of our group. These are some questions we asked in our preliminary recent interviews, and our group members addressed these questions to different target groups. Based on the interview summary and secondary research, we conclude why and how we migrate with understanding the five missing migrant groups. Which number of our group choose to analyze? These are some issues we conclude when dealing with the different migrant groups.
My target group is 3 to 7 years old in early childhood classes and entering the first or second grade. Chinese immigration are the largest in the composition of family in Hurstville, as well as 36.9% of the children are born in China. Because of the COVID-19, children are studying at home, which family with only one child. The child has difficulty meeting their peer mates. In order to help children adapt to the learning environment and living environment, and care about the mental health of the children, I propose my design idea of a complete learning system. I plan this system by simulating the environment of Hurstville and school environment, build a learning environment for the child to learn more immersively and learn together with other children at school. This is my persona of a 6-year-old girl named Renling, who immigrated to Hurstville with her parents and was born in Wuhan City, Hubei province in China. At home, they speak Mandarin, but at school, her classmates speak English. And sometimes Renling gets confused with the use of pinyin and the 26 letters. Because of COVID-19, she learned at home. She felt lonely without her classmates. This is one of the days when Renling was studying at home. Her mom called her to wake up and wash up, get dressed, and listen to the teacher's online lesson. She would get distracted by various things and couldn't concentrate on sitting in one place to study by herself. It's so boring and she wants to leave out. This is a design of a prototype diagram, or a virtual character that will simulate the real-life environment of the child. For example, the route to school, carrying out studies, asking for help from teacher and doctors, and some stuff like that. I will refine this concept idea in the second assessment.
For my individual design, I intend to design a mobile game for teenagers from Chinese immigrant families who live in Sydney to better integrate themselves into local school or community. The problems I will focus on are having difficulty in forming self-identification and sense of belongings. My persona is a student born and raised in China who named Alex. He immigrated to Sydney with his parents when he was 15. During his sensitive time of adolescence, he is challenging with the task of forming his identities and trying to gain a sense of belongings. And here is my storyboard. And based on the problems I focus on, I plan to design this game into 4 major parts, which will aim at solving the problems of self-identities, sense of belongings, language, and cultural barriers.
Hello everyone, it's Zhu. I will introduce my design brief. So my target audience is international students migrating to study abroad. So the biggest thing that my target group, apart from the average international student, is that they usually come from Australia from high school to attend local public schools. Through my research and interview, I find that the biggest problem they face is that they are unable to integrate into the local community and find it difficult to understand some of the local culture. So I needed to design a project to help them integrate into the local community and understand their culture. I chose this topic due to a study showed that the international students' satisfaction level in Australia was the least satisfied with their experience from Chinese students, the largest source of international students in Australia. So I think this community needs to be looked at. I used the 5 why analysis to analyze in depth the issue faced by this group. Why do Chinese immigrant students not integrate well into the local cultural community? International students who have just arrived in Australia have not yet fully transferred from Chinese culture due to their different cultural identity. This is the persona of my target group. He has been attending public high school in Hurstville and then came to Australia to study abroad. His goal is to integrate into the local cultural community and seeks a sense of cultural identity, and to be able to better understand the local culture. So I have focused on the concept of blending Chinese and local culture in my design. I will be using Chinese and the Hurstville cultural elements in my future installation designs.
My design was focusing on Chinese immigrants who hold the permanent visa, some of them married with another Chinese immigrants. and some of them married with Australian local people. They have the different eating habits and living habits from partner, so they need to adapt to family culture. I plan to hold a cultural exchange event to mediate intercultural relations in Australian cities such as Hurstville. The new Chinese immigrants seek to connect with Australian local community and Australian local people who are interested in Chinese food cultures could take part in this event. According to the research, the majority of Chinese immigrants choose to live in the new built apartments that significant in shaping Australian cities such as Hurstville. Apartment buildings have become a key site of intercultural encounter. Often this involves tension over the management of common areas such as cooking smells in buildings. So the cultural exchange event could increase mutual understanding and change cultural relations between new Chinese immigrants and Australian local people. My storyboard is based on finding issues faced by Chinese immigrants who live in apartments. A Chinese immigrant lives in the Hurstville apartment. One day, when she was shopping in Woolworths, she met her Australian neighbor. The neighbor stayed in the Asian food area and wanted to buy a bottle of soy sauce with no ideas. Because there are many types of soy sauce, the Chinese housewife kindly offered help and introduced her various kinds of Chinese sauces. The success of introduction aroused the Australian housewife's interest of Chinese food. So finally, they went to the China-Australia market on weekends.
This is our reference list. Thanks for listening.